What if the progress you keep requesting is larger than the life you have prepared to carry? That is not an insult. It is a diagnosis. A person can sincerely desire growth while maintaining routines that cannot support growth. You can want peace and preserve patterns that manufacture pressure. You can ask for guidance while leaving every decision to urgency. You can hope for breakthrough while living inside arrangements that repeatedly break down. Listen carefully. You may not need another prayer for progress as urgently as you need a structure capable of holding the answer. Some of you are calling yourselves stuck when the evidence says something more specific. Obligations are forgotten. Preventable situations become emergencies. Responsibilities go unpaid, unnoticed, or handled only after consequences appear. Relationships become strained because communication happens too late. Spaces become crowded until simple tasks demand unnecessary energy. Important priorities are started with passion and abandoned without completion. Then worry rises, stress rises, anxiety rises, and you wonder why peace, guidance, hope, and breakthrough seem close enough to desire but too unstable to keep. Do not condemn yourself. Examine your arrangements. There is a difference between being inherently incapable and being structurally unprepared. If you say, "I am incapable," shame becomes your conclusion. Shame attacks identity, drains energy, and makes correction feel impossible. But if you say, "I am structurally unprepared," now we have something we can inspect, something we can repair, something we can strengthen. The first statement imprisons you. The second gives you a blueprint. Write this down. Repeated frustration may be evidence of a missing system, not a missing purpose. Say it again. Purpose requires structure. Purpose becomes repeatable action only when life is organized to carry it. Desire may begin the journey, but desire cannot manage the journey. Intention can point toward the future, but intention alone cannot protect time, direct resources, clarify agreements, or finish the work. If the same preventable problem keeps returning, stop treating every appearance as a separate crisis. It may be one structural weakness wearing 5 different outfits. Yes, disorder is creative like that. It keeps changing clothes and hopes you will not recognize it. We are going to examine 5 systems. The system governing your time, the system governing your environment and information, the system governing your money and resources, the system governing your relationships and agreements, and the system governing execution. One of these may be leaking your purpose more severely than the others. We are going to find it. Right now, identify one area where the same preventable problem has occurred at least 3 times. Not once, 3 times. Name it without excuses and without self-hatred. That recurring pain is giving you information. And once the problem is named, the next question becomes unavoidable. What responsibility governs how you prepare to carry what has been entrusted to you? The responsibility is stewardship. Let me define it carefully. Stewardship is the responsible management of what has been entrusted to you. Your task is not merely to possess it, admire it, or announce what you intend to do with it. Your task is to prepare it for faithful use. Organization is how that stewardship becomes visible. Organization means giving entrusted resources a place, a purpose, and a repeatable process. A place answers, where does this belong? A purpose answers, what is this meant to serve? A process answers, how will it be handled consistently? You cannot consistently steward what you have not deliberately arranged. Write that down. Now, organization is not cosmetic neatness. A beautiful room can conceal a broken process. It is not obsessive control, because control attempts to eliminate every surprise, while stewardship prepares you to respond responsibly when surprises come. An organization is not a personality type reserved for people who enjoy labels, lists, and perfectly aligned shelves. Some of you just became very relieved. Good, you may keep your personality, but your responsibilities still require an arrangement. Organization is preparation for faithful use. Inspiration identifies what matters. Structure determines whether what matters receives time, resources, and follow-through. You may be deeply inspired about a responsibility and remain completely unprepared to carry it. Inspiration says, this is important. Structure says, because it is important, here is where it belongs, here is what supports it, and here is what happens next. The audience demand, represented by E3, confirms that people are actively seeking help with organization. That demand establishes relevance. It does not prove that every proposed method works. Popularity can tell you that a problem is widely felt. Only demonstrated practice can show whether a method produces reliable change. So we are not chasing attractive techniques. We are installing a governing principle. Watch this. What has no assigned place or process demands another decision. Another decision about where to find it. Another decision about when to handle it. Another decision about who is responsible. When those unmanaged decisions multiply, they consume attention that purpose requires. Then we ask for greater influence while failing to manage present commitments. We request more resources while existing resources have no declared purpose. We desire increased responsibility while current responsibilities depend on memory, mood, or the arrival of a crisis. That contradiction is not corrected by condemnation. It is corrected by stewardship. Take a breath. The goal is not a flawless life. The goal is a life in which important responsibilities no longer have to beg for your attention. Order can be learned. Processes can be repaired. Reliability can be built. Everybody say this. Stewardship prepares. Structure preserves. Repetition produces reliability. Again. Stewardship prepares. Structure preserves. Repetition produces reliability. Carry that principle into every system we examine. Ask whether your arrangements protect what you declare important. And we begin with the resource every purpose must pass through. The resource you cannot store, recover, or replace once it is spent, your time. Now place stewardship against your actual week. If something you call a priority never receives protected time, in what operational sense is it a priority? It may be meaningful. It may be sincere. It may even be urgent to your heart. But until time is assigned, it remains a preference competing with every interruption. Write this down. Your calendar is not merely a record of appointments. It is a decision system. It reveals what receives capacity before the day becomes crowded. A governed calendar accounts for fixed obligations, preparation, meaningful work, recovery, and margin. Margin is not wasted time. It is space for reality to occur without forcing every surprise to become a crisis. Some of you are not short of time. You are making decisions about time too late. You accept a commitment before checking capacity. You confuse the loudest demand with the most important responsibility. You schedule the event but ignore the preparation it requires. Then you place your highest purpose in whatever time remains, as though leftover time were famous for producing your best work. It is not. Watch this. A person begins the week determined to advance an important goal, but the goal has no appointment with the calendar. Then a small request arrives. There appears to be an opening, so the answer is yes. Another request arrives, then another. By the end of the week, every opening has been occupied, and the important goal is carried into Monday again. The person says, I never had time. The calendar says you never reserved it. That is not condemnation. That is useful evidence. For the next 7 days, conduct a time audit. Record where your time was actually assigned. Include obligations, preparation, travel, conversations, distractions, recovery, and unplanned demands. Do not alter the record to make yourself look disciplined. We are not collecting evidence for shame. We are collecting evidence for stewardship. At the end of each day, ask one question. Did my arrangement protect what I declared important? Then build a minimal architecture for the next week. Place fixed responsibilities first. Add one protected block for the purpose you keep postponing. Schedule the preparation that block requires. Leave transition space between demanding activities. Assign intentional rest, because exhaustion does not become faithfulness merely because it is crowded. And now comes the uncomfortable proof. Subtract something, postpone it, delegate it, renegotiate it, or decline it. Choose one commitment that contradicts your declared priority and recover that capacity. Do not tell me everything is equally important. If everything receives the same rank, interruption will cast the deciding vote. Activity measures motion. Stewardship asks whether the motion serves purpose. Busy people can fill every hour and still remain ungoverned. Governed people decide what the hour must serve. But one more question remains. What happens when the time is protected, yet the tools are missing, the information is scattered, and the surroundings resist the work? A prepared calendar can open the door, but your environment must make action possible. The protected block begins, but the material is not ready, the keys are missing, the document cannot be located, the instructions are buried beneath a stream of messages. 10 minutes becomes 20, attention breaks, frustration enters, and the time you carefully reserved is spent preparing to begin. This is the second system, environment. Do not reduce environment to the room around you. Your environment includes rooms, work surfaces, drawers, devices, inboxes, documents, notes, and every place where requests arrive. Physical clutter and digital overload may look different, but they create the same problem. Something entered your life without an assigned destination or a reliable process. Write this principle down. Anything without a home or a path becomes a recurring interruption. A possession needs a home, an input needs a path. When an item has no home, you place it wherever convenience permits, then search for it when responsibility requires it. When information has no capture point, you trust memory, leave it inside a conversation, or scatter it across several locations. Retrieval becomes investigation. Investigation consumes the attention intended for action. You know this cycle. Keys cannot be found before an appointment. A receipt needed for a decision is somewhere, but somewhere is not a system. Instructions remain buried in messages until the moment they are required. Ideas are divided among notebooks and applications, and now you need an idea just to remember where you recorded the idea. That is almost humorous until it costs you another hour. The goal is not display-worthy minimalism. Your space does not need to impress a visitor. Your system needs to support a responsibility. The real test is simple. Can what you need be found, understood, and processed reliably? Make 3 structural decisions. First, assign 1 home to every frequently used item. Not 3 possible homes. 1 normal home. Return it after use so tomorrow does not have to finance today's carelessness. Second, establish 1 trusted capture point for actionable inputs. When a request, obligation, instruction, or idea arrives, record it there. But listen carefully. Capturing is not completing. Recording an obligation prevents it from disappearing. It does not decide when it will be done. The capture point must be reviewed, clarified, and assigned. Third, schedule a reset. Order naturally weakens through use. A reset restores items, clears surfaces, processes inputs, and returns the environment to readiness. If restoration depends on noticing chaos, chaos will always choose the appointment. Now choose 1 high-friction zone. A work surface, an entry area, an inbox, a document folder, or the place where incoming requests accumulate. Define its purpose. Then remove, relocate, label, or route everything that does not support that purpose. Do not attempt to reorganize your entire life tonight. Repair 1 zone until the next responsible action becomes apparent. Prepared environments protect the time and attention that purpose requires. Stewardship reduces avoidable confusion and makes faithful action easier to repeat. And once possessions and information have a destination, we must examine another entrusted resource, one many people avoid because it carries fear, guilt, and consequence. Money. Money also needs an assignment. It is one entrusted resource among several, and it must be handled with the same sober stewardship you apply to time, attention, and possessions. Do not turn this into shame. Shame hides the numbers. Stewardship examines them. And do not turn organization into a promise of wealth. A financial system cannot guarantee increase, remove every hardship, or control every outcome. It can make your responsibilities and choices visible. Write this down. What is not deliberately allocated will be claimed by whatever demands attention first. You say a plan matters, but impulse is funded before the plan is considered. Preventable fees consume resources that preparation could have protected. Quiet commitments continue charging in the background. Flexible spending has no boundary, and the meaningful priority receives whatever happens to survive. Usually, very little survives. How do you recognize an unprepared money system? Recurring charges are leaving, but you cannot readily name them. Obligations are remembered only when payment is due. Spending categories have no limits. Decisions are made without checking what is actually available. The issue is not that you lack good intentions. The issue is that your money receives instructions too late. Consider a household with a meaningful plan, preparation for training, a necessary repair, or support for an important project. Everyone agrees that it matters. Everyone intends to contribute. But no amount is assigned when resources arrive. Discretionary spending begins. Ordinary appetites make their requests. And by the time the household remembers the plan, the available money has already accepted other assignments. Next month, they repeat the promise. Next month, they repeat the disappearance. The priority did not lose because it lacked meaning. It lost because it lacked allocation. Now make the money visible. List the income or resources presently available. List fixed obligations. List recurring commitments, including the small ones that prefer not to introduce themselves. List upcoming needs. Then list current discretionary choices. Do not estimate for comfort. Look at what is actually happening. Next, create an allocation sequence suitable to your real responsibilities. This is not a universal formula because households, seasons, and obligations differ. But the governing order is clear. Acknowledge what you owe, protect essential needs, assign something to the priority you declare important, and establish limits for flexible spending. The amount assigned to the priority may begin modestly. Modest and deliberate is stronger than impressive and imaginary. Then conduct a brief weekly money review. Compare the plan with actual transactions. Identify what changed. Correct the next decision. Cancel, reduce, defer, or reassign where necessary. The review is not a courtroom where you prosecute yourself. It is a stewardship meeting where reality is allowed to speak. And listen carefully. Repentance in this system is behavioral. Regretting the fee is not the same as preventing it. Feeling guilty about the purchase is not the same as changing the limit. Sorrow may awaken you, but correction must rearrange the handling pattern. Money becomes useful to purpose when allocation happens before impulse. But even when time and money have clear assignments, another problem can undo the plan. The people involved may be operating from different assumptions. That brings us to relationships, expectations, and the agreements that connect them. Allocation is also relational. A responsibility involving several people must be assigned as deliberately as time or money. Yet people often demand dependable results from agreements that were never clearly made. They expect follow-through without confirming ownership. They expect punctuality without stating a deadline. Then disappointment arrives, blame begins, and everyone insists, "I thought you knew." Write this down. Trust is strengthened when expectations become explicit agreements with visible ownership. Now, organizing relationships does not mean controlling people. People are not possessions to be arranged, and love is not a workflow. This system does not govern human worth, personality, or spontaneity. It governs commitments and the communication surrounding them. Purposeful relationships require promises that can be understood, remembered, and honored. Watch the common failures. A request is disguised as a hint. Ownership remains unclear. A deadline is felt strongly but never spoken plainly. Someone gives an automatic yes before examining capacity. The commitment is stored in memory, where it must compete with every other concern. Then silence is mistaken for agreement, politeness is mistaken for acceptance, and assumption is mistaken for communication. Consider a household pickup or a team assignment. Two people discuss what needs to happen. One believes mentioning the responsibility transferred ownership. The other believes the conversation was only informational. The pickup is missed or the task is delayed. Now both people are frustrated because each believed the other had accepted responsibility. The failure may not have begun with laziness or disrespect. It may have begun with an agreement that never became an agreement. So test every important commitment with 4 questions. Who owns the action? Not who cares about it, not who first noticed it, who accepted responsibility. What does completion mean? Handle it is not a clear outcome when 2 people imagine different results. When is it due? Soon is a mood. A dependable agreement needs a stated time or condition. How will a change be communicated? Responsible people still encounter conflict, delay, and reduced capacity. Trust is protected when the change is communicated before silence creates another story. And please hear this. A responsible no can protect a relationship better than an impulsive yes. Renegotiation can be more faithful than pretending the original commitment remains possible. A request for clarification is not weakness. It gives the other person a fair opportunity to explain what they need. The goal is not to promise everything. The goal is to make honest commitments and communicate when reality changes. Now conduct a relationship audit. Choose one household, work, ministry, or community commitment that currently depends on assumptions. Ask who owns it, what completion means, when it is due, and how changes will be reported. Then hold one clarifying conversation. Do not enter it looking for someone to prosecute. Enter it prepared to replace ambiguity with a workable agreement. Keep this commitment for resolution during your 7-day structural reset. Clarity is not coldness. It reduces preventable resentment, preserves dignity, and gives people a fair opportunity to be dependable. But once ownership is clear, another gap remains. Someone must still carry the agreement from intention to completion. That is the system of execution. The agreement is clear. The owner is named. The outcome and deadline are visible. Now answer the final question. What will that person actually do next? Here's the contradiction. You can love the vision and still resist defining the next physical, observable action. Vision feels significant. Action feels ordinary. Vision can be discussed for an hour. The next step may take 10 minutes. Yet nothing moves until meaning is translated into something a person can do. Write this distinction down. Vision gives direction. A project names a finish line. A next action identifies the immediate behavior that advances the project. I want to improve the program is not a project. Improve it how? By when? What evidence will show that the work is finished? A workable project might be complete a revised program guide ready for review. Now the finish line is visible. The next action might be draft the first page outline. That can be done. It can enter a calendar. It can require particular materials. It can be assigned to an owner. It can be completed. Vision moves when the next responsible action becomes specific, visible, and scheduled. Execution leaks through vague language. Work on it. Deal with it. Make progress. It leaks through too many simultaneous priorities, each one receiving a little attention and none receiving enough to finish. It leaks through lists, scattered across devices, notebooks, messages, and memory. It leaks when you begin without defining completion. And it leaks when stalled commitments are never reviewed, so unfinished work quietly becomes part of the furniture. The durable audience interest represented by E5 shows that discipline and daily mastery remain deeply relevant concerns. It does not establish that this particular execution system is valid merely because people watched or responded. Interest identifies the hunger. Practice must demonstrate whether the method produces dependable movement. So install a minimal execution system. Keep one trusted action list. Every executable commitment must reach that list instead of disappearing into several competing locations. Limit the number of active projects deliberately. If everything is active, attention is being divided before work begins. Choose one primary action for the day. Not the only action, but the action that must not be displaced by easier activity. Then review unfinished commitments every week. Ask what is complete, what is stalled, what the next action is, and whether the project should continue, pause, change, or end. This is discipline. Keeping a prepared appointment with purpose. Discipline is not waiting until your mood becomes cooperative. Your mood may arrive late and still expect full credit. No. The decision was prepared, the action was defined, and the time was reserved. Begin there. Now, all 5 systems are visible. When intention repeatedly fails to become completion, where does the breakdown occur most often? Is time unassigned? Are materials or information unavailable? Are resources unallocated? Is ownership unclear? Or is the next action still vague and unreviewed? Identify the weakest system, but do not rush into another isolated repair. The next task is to bring all 5 systems into one weekly rhythm, so improvement does not depend on remembering 5 separate lessons. Now gather the 5 systems around one governing principle. Stewardship prepares what purpose requires. Time provides capacity. Environment and information provide access. Money provides allocation. Agreements provide coordination. Next actions provide movement. These are not 5 unrelated techniques. They are one chain. If one link weakens, pressure travels through the others. Watch how disorder moves. An agreement remains unclear, so nobody confirms ownership. The responsibility is remembered late and arrives as an urgent request. That request disrupts the calendar because no capacity was reserved. Action begins, but the necessary information cannot be found. Delay increases. Then, a required expense appears that was never allocated. Now time is compressed. People are frustrated. The work is stalled, and money is producing stress. 5 problems. No. One unmanaged responsibility traveled through 5 systems. Now reverse the chain. Clarify who owns the responsibility and what completion requires. Capture the commitment in the trusted system. Locate the information and materials before they are needed. Assign the necessary time and resources. Define the immediate action that moves the responsibility forward. Same life, same people, same obligation. But now structure is carrying what memory, urgency, and good intentions could not carry reliably. Write this down. Order becomes sustainable when the 5 systems meet in one recurring rhythm of review and correction. You do not need 5 disconnected ceremonies that make organization feel like a second occupation. You need one weekly stewardship review. Choose a recurring time. Protect it. Then examine the systems in deliberate order. First, inspect the coming calendar. Confirm fixed responsibilities, preparation, protected work, transition, space, and rest. Second, reset the essential spaces and process incoming information. Return what is out of place, clear what obstructs action, and route each actionable input. Third, review financial commitments. Identify what is due, what changed, what must be allocated, and what decision needs correction. Fourth, examine relational obligations. Confirm ownership, outcomes, deadlines, and any conversation required to clarify or renegotiate a commitment. Fifth, select the next actions. Update the trusted list, review active projects, and identify the primary action that deserves protection. That is one rhythm. Calendar, access, allocation, coordination, movement. Say it again until you can remember it without borrowing somebody's notes. And please understand the purpose of the review. It is not a weekly trial where you prove whether you are a good person. It is an early warning practice. It discovers drift while correction is still small. Perfection hides mistakes. Stewardship exposes them early enough to respond. The audience need represented by E 16 points toward greater peace and guidance. Responsible preparation can support those outcomes by reducing preventable confusion and making decisions visible. It does not guarantee them automatically. A system is not magic. It is a way of becoming ready to act faithfully. So do not attempt to rebuild everything at once. Identify the weakest load-bearing system, the place where purpose is leaking most severely. Carry that one into the next 7 days. Strengthen it first, document the correction, and let visible proof answer whether conviction has become preparation. Now take the diagnosis and turn it into a decision. You are not being sentenced to a life called stuck. You are being invited to prepare. Recurring disorder may have exposed weak arrangements, but exposure is not rejection. It is an opportunity to practice stewardship, to handle what has been entrusted in a way that makes responsible action repeatable. Say the commitment in your own words. I will stop asking intention to perform work that only structure can perform. Do not merely admire that sentence. Test it. Take out a page and create a 5-system scorecard. Write these 5 categories: calendar, environment and information, money and resources, relationships and agreements, execution. Rate each system from 1 to 5. 1 means the system repeatedly produces preventable pressure. 5 means it reliably supports your present responsibilities. But watch this. Every rating requires evidence. Beneath each number, write one observable example from your conduct. Not how organized you feel. Not what you meant to do. What actually happened. If you gave your calendar a 2, identify the behavior that earned the 2. If agreements received a 4, identify what made ownership dependable. Mood is not the measurement. Handling is the measurement. Now examine the scores. Choose the lowest one, or if another system carries greater consequences, choose that one. Do not select the easiest repair so you can feel successful. Select the weakness that is costing purpose the most. Then define one bounded correction you can complete within 7 days. 1. Protect one purpose block on the calendar. Establish one trusted capture point for incoming obligations. Complete one review of money and resources. Clarify one agreement by confirming ownership, outcome, deadline, and communication. Or define and schedule one immediate action that advances an active project. Notice the size of the assignment. You are not reorganizing your entire existence by next week. Everybody breathe. You are repairing one arrangement well enough to inspect it. The correction must be specific, possible, and connected to an actual responsibility. Now determine the proof before you begin. If the repair concerns time, the proof may be the protected calendar entry and evidence that the block was honored. If it concerns access, show the cleared functional zone or the established capture point. If it concerns resources, bring the completed review page. If it concerns an agreement, write a summary of what was clarified and confirmed. If it concerns execution, show the finished project step, not a speech about planning to start it. Write the deadline beside the repair. 7 days from now, what will exist that does not exist today? Answer that question plainly. Conviction is not proven by stronger emotion. It is proven by a changed arrangement that can be examined. Before this message ends, schedule your first integrated weekly stewardship review. Choose the day, choose the time, put it on the calendar now. That appointment will bring the 5 systems back together, reveal what changed, and identify the next correction. This is how one repair becomes a rhythm instead of a temporary burst of enthusiasm. Will this remove every difficulty? No. Will it guarantee peace? No. But peace becomes more plausible when responsibilities are visible, decisions are prepared, agreements are clear, and meaningful work no longer waits for crisis to command attention. Your life begins to move when stewardship gives purpose a structure strong enough to carry it. So return to the first repair. Complete it. Document it. And in 7 days, come back with evidence that the way you handled responsibility has changed.